All right, coming up, digital devices are a big part of many children's lives, and while being online, it's very possible they could stumble upon some very inappropriate adult content. Coming up, we're going to ask Common Sense Media how to have a conversation with our kids about pornographic material that they could find online.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, every Thursday, we sit down with the folks at Common Sense Media to discuss the issues facing families in this digital age. And I'm joined today by Derry Stevens, Senior Director of Education Content for Common Sense Education. And today, folks, we're talking about pornography. Kids obviously online, spending many hours of their day online, and that can put them in a position in which they stumble across some adult material that they're not quite ready for. So my first question is, what do we do about it as parents?
Oh, porn, the new four-letter word.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not here to judge the porn industry, but the issue is that we know that kids are stumbling upon porn or accessing it in one click.
Yeah.
And often this porn is graphic and violent and full of stereotypes and degrading to men and women alike. But kids don't know that this is scripted sex, that it's full of, you know, made-up characters and unrealistic expectations. So we as adults need to help them understand what makes for a healthy sexual relationship.
Okay, so, you know, when I was growing up, there was the birds and bees conversation. Now it is the pornography talk conversation, right? Because now it is about what they will have access to online. So do you encourage parents, before we even begin the conversation about what they find online, should we have a talk with them about what exists?
You know, it's up to you as the parent, but we know that access nowadays, it's a great thing. The internet's part of our lives, part of our kids' lives. But we want them to be safe and responsible and have those tools to thrive in the digital world. So when they do stumble on something like porn, that they know what to do and they're not trying to process it themselves or turn to their friends who might be as ill-equipped and ill-informed as they are.
Okay, so are you the parent and you say, okay, click away, you know, really quickly, or do you use that opportunity to talk with them?
It's a teachable moment, but you want to be proactive and not necessarily reactive, because most likely they are going to stumble on something that's inappropriate. So, you know, we have 3 tips.
Okay.
First, think about what you want your child to know. What are your concerns? What are your hopes for their relationships? This is an opportunity to impart your values, and also to let them know you're aware and you know what's going on in the world. Number 2, pay attention to your tone, because we know how you say it is as important as what you say. Rule of thumb is think of 3 adjectives: calm, collected, confident. So you go in and you don't have a tone that will humiliate or shame your kids. And then number 3, this is the hardest one, initiating that conversation, taking that first step. Saying to your child, have you ever seen anything that's made you uncomfortable? Or this may be awkward, but there are things that I want you to know. And this shouldn't be a one and done conversation.
And you say there's no real way out there to prevent your kids from finding this. But what are some ways in which maybe you can limit it? I've always thought about maybe on their computer when they log in, just having specific bookmarks, right? Specific websites that they can go to and nothing else. Is that a good idea?
We give advice around filters and monitoring, but at the end of the day, nothing's 100% foolproof. So we at Common Sense start as early as kindergarten, talking with kids about helping them identify what sites are right for them. We talk about red light sites, yellow light sites, green light sites. So when they do hit content that's not meant for them, not age appropriate, they know to shut it down. And then they also know if they have that awkward kind of, you know, in their gut feeling, to turn to a trusted adult. Because at the end of the day, we don't want them shouldering this by themselves.
No, we certainly don't. All right, any other tips? You mentioned that getting that conversation started, that can be the difficult part. What are some tips just to get the conversation going?
Again, I think saying to your child, you know, have you ever seen anything that's bothered you online? I had a coworker tell me just the other day, she was sitting with her 13-year-old daughter who was doing a report, and they looked at a site called The History of Licorice. Innocent, right?
Yeah.
And she said they were assaulted with images. And she had to check herself not to overreact and to say, okay, let's shut this down, on to the next. Because we don't want our kids to ever think that we're mad, upset, or disappointed in them.
Right, and that there's something that they did that they should be ashamed of. You want them to be able to talk with you openly about it. Derry, great advice. Thanks so much for joining us today. A difficult conversation, but if you take those tips, it will be an easy conversation to have. Kiva and Mike, back to you.